All right, let's talk about emotions. We all have them, all the time. Sometimes they're like a huge storm inside you. Other times they're barely a whisper. But for something so central to, well, being human, they can be a total mystery. So today, we're going to peel back the layers on this mystery, from where they come from to how we can actually work with them.
So, picture this. You and a friend study your butts off for a huge exam. You walk out feeling pretty good. Then, you get the grade back, and you totally bombed it. You feel that sinking feeling in your stomach. You're crushed. But you look over, and your friend, who got the exact same bad grade, just kind of shrugs. What's up with that? Same event, completely different reactions. That question, right there, is exactly what we're digging into.
To get to the bottom of that, we first have to crack the emotional code. I mean, what even is an emotion when you really get down to it? Let's break it down.
Okay, so the first big thing to get is that an emotion isn't just a feeling. It's more like a whole package deal. It's got a few different parts. There's the subjective part, what it actually feels like to be you. There's the thinking part, the story you're telling yourself about what's happening. There's the expressive part, what your face is doing, your body language. And then there's all the stuff happening inside, your heart racing, your breathing changing. All of that is the emotion.
In fact, we can get even more specific. There's this model from a psychologist named Klaus Scherer that lays it out like a step-by-step process. It starts with a cognitive appraisal. You evaluate that bad grade and decide this is a disaster. That immediately triggers bodily symptoms, like your stomach dropping. Next comes an action tendency. That sudden urge to just rip the test into a million pieces. This is followed by an expression, like a frown. And when all those things fire together, you get the final component, the subjective feeling we call devastation.
So we know all the ingredients that make up an emotion. But for literally centuries, philosophers and scientists have been arguing about the recipe. What comes first? Does the thought in your head trigger the feeling in your gut? Or is it the other way around? It's basically the ultimate chicken or the egg debate in psychology.
And it really boils down to two main camps. On one side, you have the body-first crew. They believe the stimulus, the bad grade, causes a physical reaction first, and then your brain looks at what your body's doing and says, oh, I guess I'm upset. But the mind-first team says, no, that's backwards. They argue the stimulus makes you think first, and that thought, that appraisal, is what kicks off both the emotion and the bodily reaction.
The most famous body-first idea comes from the James Lang theory. William James put it in this really mind-bending way. He said it's not that you see a bear, feel fear, and then start to tremble. He argued you see a bear, your body just automatically starts trembling, and your brain's perception of that trembling is the emotion of fear. The physical thing happens first. Wild, right?
Now the mind-first camp would say, hold on a second. They argue we cry because our brain first does a quick evaluation, a cognitive appraisal. We size up the situation, decide it's a major loss, and that judgment is what makes us feel sad and start to cry. And honestly, this totally explains our exam scenario, doesn't it? You and your friend reacted differently because you appraised that same bad grade differently.
So, whether the process starts in the body or the mind, you might still be wondering, why do we have them at all? Aren't emotions just messy, irrational things that get in our way? Well, not at all. Think of them as a finely tuned survival kit handed down to us through millions of years of evolution.
Emotions are incredibly practical tools. Fear is what triggers your fight-or-flight response, which could save your life. Positive emotions like joy motivate us to do things that are good for us. They also act like a highlighter for our memories. You're way more likely to remember something that made you feel strongly. And maybe most importantly, they're a kind of universal language. They let us communicate our needs and connect with each other, often without saying a single word.
Okay, so emotions are complex, they're ancient, and they're super useful. But does that mean we're just passengers on this emotional roller coaster? Absolutely not. See, the cool thing is, once you understand how emotions are built, you get the blueprint for how to manage them. This is where we get practical.
This framework is called the process model of emotion regulation, and it's basically a roadmap for your feelings. It shows that an emotion unfolds over time in 4 stages. First, there's the situation. Then what you pay attention to within that situation. After that comes the appraisal, which is how you interpret what you're focused on. And all of that leads to the final emotional response. And here's the game changer. You can step in and make a change at any of those 4 points.
So what does that look like in real life? Let's say you're invited to a party where you know your ex is going to be. Awkward. So strategy 1, situation selection. You just decide, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. Or
Situation modification. You decide to go, but you hang out in a different room. What if you see them? You can use attentional deployment and just turn all your focus to a conversation with a friend. Or you could try cognitive change and reframe your thinking to, this is a chance to show I'm confident and moving on. And if you still feel a pang of emotion, that's when you use response modulation, like taking a few deep breaths to calm your body down. See? So many places to intervene.
So we have all of these powerful tools to regulate our emotions. But what's the end goal here? Should we just be trying to feel happy all the time? Well, a lot of the research suggests that's actually a pretty dangerous misconception. This is where we need a major reframe. There are no good emotions and bad emotions. They are just data. They are either helpful or unhelpful in a specific situation. For example, if your friend is grieving a loss, feeling and showing sadness is incredibly helpful. It connects you. It shows empathy. Trying to force yourself to be happy in that moment would be totally unhelpful and, frankly, kind of weird.
And what's really fascinating is that constantly chasing happiness can seriously backfire. Studies have shown that people who put a ton of pressure on themselves to be happy often end up feeling worse. Why? Because the moment they feel sad, they also feel guilty or frustrated about feeling sad. It just adds a whole second layer of negative feelings right on top.
So I want to leave you with this last thought. What if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if the goal of our rich, complex, and sometimes painful emotional lives isn't to just be in a constant state of happy? What if instead, the purpose of every single emotion we feel, anger, joy, sadness, fear, is to give us the wisdom we need to navigate the world? Something to think about.